My name is Justin Fox, and what I do is game development and also some ministry on top of that, because I'm one of those Jesus weirdos. You're welcome for that. I got started making games when I was actually towards the tail end of high school. So this game came out called RPG Maker, and it came out for the PlayStation 1. And I heard that this is a place where you can actually make a game where you can actually make an RPG. And I love RPGs. That's one of my favorite genres, or if not my favorite genre, period. So I was like, oh my god, I can actually make a game but not know how to code with C# and C++ and all that kind of stuff, you know. This is awesome, right? So took me like a month to get anything on the screen. But because I wanted to do it that bad, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and try to figure it out. Took me a month to get anything on the screen, and I went ahead and made almost a 40-hour RPG on that thing. It was like 7 or 8 memory cards long. So I still have it actually. It's pretty crazy. But that's where I got my first game actually completed. I can't tell you how much fun it was to actually, you know, have a paint program where you don't have a diagonal. You don't have a diagonal. I mean, this thing made, you know, Microsoft Paint, you know, just a little made software, you know, Windows software, you know, just looked like a Photoshop or whatever, you know. It was awful. So you couldn't do diagonal lines. You had to, like, you know, like go up, they go down, right, down, right, down, right. You know, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, like getting stabbed. It was that much fun, like right in the ribs. It was that much fun, but I did it.
Got any video game creators that brought you into this world? Like what got those gears going, man? What happened?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you can always default with like Shigeru Miyamoto, because, you know, he's the guy who made Mario and Zelda, and that's pretty much, if you're from North America, then that is essentially where you're gonna start at, because, you know, other places there wasn't that kind of same crash that we had in the American States. So Shigeru Miyamoto, of course, and Yoko Taro, who was famous for making these weird games like Drakengard and Nier and Nier Automata or Automata, or however you're pronouncing it. I've seen it both ways, so like whatever. Yeah, exactly. So, but he really influenced me in terms of what you can do inside of a game, because most developers are trying to be movie directors. I'm like, you're in a game, leave it there. So that was very important to me. Suda51 is also a guy that I really respect because of the zaniness of how he is and who he is. So he just kind of lets it fly. It just kind of goes all the way into areas that most people are not willing to go into, just in terms of style and fun stuff and weirdness and stuff like that, you know. So those are probably my top 3. Yeah.
Well, give us some background on your new game, Black Simulator.
That's a funny sentence, you know that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I do know that.
So, Black Simulator, such a weird thing to even talk about. Anyway, Black Simulator is a game where you're just trying, it's a little mini game where you're trying to get through the day without getting shot or arrested by the police. That's all you're trying to do.
And why do you think this is difficult for people to understand how black people feel in today's society? Why is this relevant?
Well, it's not necessarily, you know, it's the experience of it, you know, but it's also the nuanced experience of it. And it's also showing both sides of it, you know. So usually what is happening in conversations a lot of times, you know, when it comes to any, I guess, group of people, is that they hype up their group, and then they say why the other group of people are being awful or whatever it is. I mean, we see that with like Sony versus Xbox. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's all that kind of tribalism that happens all the time. And because of my, I guess you would say, existential background in terms of ministry and things like that, I can kind of look at both sides and be like, this is dumb what you're doing on this side, this is dumb what you're doing on this side. So I kind of like to give a more objective look at, you know, black culture and say that, you know, hey, there are things that we do that are not good within our own culture also, and we need to talk about those things too. Like, if you know, there's an Uncle Tom meter in the game, right? So you have Popo meter, you have a Ignat meter, then you have an Uncle Tom meter, and they basically do their functions from what they sound like. So the Popo meter, if you have the wrong choices in terms of attire and things like that, you know, you try to walk around with a hoodie on, listen to a lot of gangster raps, then the Popo meter will go up. If you, for example, are talking to someone at a store and they say something to you like, oh, you know, you speak so well. I mean, you have a response of either, well, thank you, or you'd be like, what the heck am I supposed to sound like, you know? And then the Uncle Tom meter is this thing where it's like, if you're too agreeable as a person of color, then you get labeled an Uncle Tom, you get labeled as all these other derogatory stuff, you know. And that's kind of thing that, you know, in the conversation about race, is kind of swept under the rug a little bit, because that does sound really stupid. Or even like skin color prejudice amongst black people, like, you know, if you're dark skinned, you know what I'm saying, that means you're a harder edge type of person, you know. But if you're light skinned, you're sensitive and bougie and basically a wuss. So, you know, I don't really help my case right now because I'm so skinny. But, you know, this is kind of these little, you know, skin color cues that we got going on too, and I just wanted to draw a lot of that out, just objectively.
Well, walk me through, I mean, like, the concept, like, just coming up with it, like why?
It started as a joke, really. I mean, like, so I like to mess around with, you know, stereotypes and race and things like that too, because if you're really over it, you can joke about it, right? So it's kind of like that thing where people say sometimes, like, it wasn't funny at the time, but, you know, now it's kind of funny now. But at the time it wasn't funny, you know, so if I'm really past that, you know, I should be able to play around with it and have, you know, and mess around with it and stuff. So I was talking to someone at a Christian game developers conference up there in Portland, Oregon. And this is the guy, he actually made, for gamers out there, he made that Dragon Cancer. And so I was talking to Ryan, and I was joking around with him saying that, you know, I should make a black simulator game, and I would describe it and go into detail about it. And he was like, his eyes got really big. He's like, you should totally do that. And I was like, don't encourage my bad behavior. Don't do that. But the thing is that I began to think about it more. And again, I'm a believer, so I prayed about it, which is a weird thing to pray about, right? Because we think I'm thinking that God's this stuffy old white dude, like, pouring down like that, and it's like, he's not like that at all. So praying about it, it's like, is it okay for me to make this, because this isn't really leaving my spirit, right? He's like, yeah, sure, just put me in it somehow, and that's fine. I was like, oh, I love how chill you are about some certain things. Anyway, so that's the story of how Black Simulator became a thing.
Well, what are you hoping people take from Black Simulator? You got a goal? Empathy? Anything?
I think just being able to look at the situation and just experiencing the choices. Because the choices are different, right? So, if you've never had to think about what you wear before, you know what I'm saying? Or sometimes, so I mean, we have to do that in a certain way, you know, depending on if we're going to a job interview, if we're going to a certain bar or whatever it is, you know, we're thinking about what we have to wear, but we're sometimes, you know, we may not be thinking about trouble or arrest being associated with what you wear, you know? So just looking at experiencing it within the context of the game, saying that, you know, yeah, you know what, I think about the choices that I gotta make, and do I have to say this or should I say that, and everything, you know? That's kind of what it's like. It's just a different series of choices, and I want people to kind of understand what those choices are and how they're different for a minority versus someone who's a majority. Because I don't care if, it doesn't matter about the race thing, it matters more about the majority versus the minority. When you're in a majority society, you're going to have the majority culture. So you have to react inside the majority culture rather than the minority culture. And a minority culture can influence a lot of things about the majority culture, but still, it's a majority culture. So it doesn't matter what it is in terms of race or culture or whatever it is, you have to respond differently based on what is actually around you for the most part. So one of the principles that I have in my own life is that I like to understand why someone does something. Because when I understand it, it doesn't make me angry anymore. you know? So rather than getting mad at people and circumstances and things like that, you know, how would someone do that? I would never do that. Well, do you understand why that person's doing it? Now, to understand something doesn't mean that you're validating it. It just means that you're getting and understanding why, as a human being, something like that would happen, or why you would do something like that to somebody, or whatever it may be. So, you know, something as heinous as, let's say somebody did something malicious to you, and, you know, when you was a home wrecker, or, you know, like, did something awful like, I don't know, seduced your own wife, something like that. That's a heavy one, right? Now, again, not condoning it, but why would you do that? What happened in that equation? So I could be all mad and everything, you know, and yes, I would be angry. Absolutely, I'd be angry. But I would have to understand, it's like, okay, why did my wife say this, say yes to this, and why did this person, you know, find it necessary to do that? Well, it could have been some things going on in his childhood to where he was so desperate for attention and things like that, you know, that's just the way that he copes with the fact that maybe he had a father figure or a mother figure, you know, that just would not give him any type of attention or anything, you know, so he feels abandoned all the time, you know. And maybe my wife felt the exact same way. So these two people who were always hurting because they didn't like themselves came together for a night or two or whatever it is, you know, and I can understand that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can understand, I can get that. I can get what it means to feel lonely. I can get what it means to feel desperate. I can get what it means to be in a position to where you hate yourself, or you don't like yourself, or you don't think you can do better for yourself. I get all those type of things. Again, I don't like it, and we're gonna have some problems, but it doesn't make me as angry when I understand it, and I'm humble enough to actually understand, okay, this is what it's like for them, and try to gain that understanding. In the same way with Black Simulator, there's a lot of, you know, this, you know, you don't understand what it means to be black, and you don't understand this. He's like, well, let's bring some understanding to it. I'm gonna do it in a fun way, so it doesn't seem so doggone dramatic, but let's understand some things about each other culturally that we may have to deal with. And I'm not making a statement of this is exclusive, because I would totally intend to make White Simulator at some point in time, which is gonna be funny, because I think that you guys have to deal with different things also. The accusation that, you know, you're always doing something terrible, that all the world's problems are on your shoulders and everything, that basically there are no wars, everyone was living peacefully until the white man came. Like, that's not true either, you know? Or having the feeling, you know, of like, why is everyone asking me to curb, you know, myself just so they can succeed? It sounds like that's what you're saying, and I'm not gonna do that, and I'm not gonna feel bad about doing that either. So, you know, I want to get into the nuances of those type of things too. So again, that's me trying to understand, you know, not only was like to have someone understand what it's like to be black, but also trying to understand too what it's like to be white in America, or white in America. So, cause I don't know, I see a lot of things like white guilt, and it bothers me. Like, why are you putting this on your shoulders when you don't have anything to do with what your great so and so did? You know, when that doesn't seem fair.
Is there anything, any biblical morals or anything you're trying to, you not necessarily push? Is there anything you're trying to teach people?
The deal was that, you know, I prayed about it and everything, you know, guys just come, just put me in it, you know, and that'll be fine. Okay, I'll make a weird game called Black Simulator. Put you with somehow. He's not a prude. I mean, we confuse God so many times with Western culture. You know, it's like, so we expect him to be this stuffy, mean old white dude pointing his finger down like that, you know, and like, no, he's not like that at all. He's pretty chill. He will always maintain his judgments and who he is, because he doesn't go outside of that, you know, to be like a parent bending over backwards, you know what I'm saying, to please their child. You know, it's kind of like, no, you're the parent, you know better, so therefore you teach that child the best, because that child has no perception of what it's going to take to actually be a functioning human being. They don't know. They simply don't know. So you don't yield to the child needs to yield to you, so that child grows up to be a responsible and healthy person. Granted that you're a responsible and healthy person. So God kind of works the same way, but he's a lot more chill than we think. But but I put that in there a little bit with the pastor. So, the pastor is someone who's just kind of like overcome it. Christianity is supposed to be about overcoming the odds. That's what it's supposed to be about. At the end of the day, because God overcame every conceivable odds against him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you actively had an existential forces that were trying to kill him, so that they could usurp his throne. You know what I'm saying? Put it above his own throne. When he came in the form of Jesus, and he outsmarted and outwitted all of it, and he overcame. So the gospel is an overcoming gospel, and so the pastor is always talking about, hey, I know we have these problems, but don't let that stop you. So that is the chief principle that I put in there in terms of just that principle of being an overcomer. And I know a lot of people are looking at it like, a lot of my Christian friends are like kind of, weird or broke or and things like that, But the ones who really get it, they overcome. And those are probably the ones that you respect the most. You can find my new game, Black Simulator, on Steam. Type in Black Simulator on Steam. And you can find it that way. And also, to catch up on everything else that I do, you can go to justinfoxmedia.com. And that's where all the things that I do, my YouTube channel's on there, my other game is on there, release, all my other stuff is on there. So you can find out all that jazzy information on there too, in terms of all the other social media links and things that I do. So, but it's my first game release like that, my first major game release like that, and that's pretty doggone cool.